Greetings, all you ghouls and curious creepers out there. I am the Spooky Teller, and welcome to my little corner of literary horrors. For I have 4 scary stories from across the world to bring to you for your sick enjoyment. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Good. Now let's begin. Our first story is called Humans Can Lick Too. A girl is alone at home one night for the first time in her life. However, she has a dog to keep her company on those cold winter nights. One night, the girl listens on the news about a serial killer on the loose. That night, she tries to go to bed before locking all the doors and windows except for one, so she can still feel the breeze of the wind. She goes to bed, but keeps her dog with her at all times. She believes that as long as the dog can lick her hand, she'll be safe. Around midnight, she could hear a dripping sound going on constantly. Despite being fearful, she gets out of bed and checks all the sinks from her kitchen to her bathroom, but finds no dripping. As she goes back to bed, she still hears the dripping noise. Too terrified to fall asleep, she put her hand down next to her bed and feels the lick from her dog, reassuring her. She then gently falls into a deep sleep. The next morning, she wakes up and finds the dog missing, yet she could still hear the dripping sound continue. She figured out that the dripping sound wasn't coming from a sink, but coming from her wardrobe. She goes up to her wardrobe and opens it, and to find to her horror her dog dead and hanged upside down. The dripping sound she could hear was the blood coming from the body of the dog. On the side of her wardrobe door, there was a message written in the dog's blood. It simply said, "Humans can lick too." Well, wasn't that positively dreadful? Perhaps the next story will be more pleasant. It's called Aren't You Glad You Didn't Turn On the Lights? 2 best friends, Meg and Samantha, live in the same room of a college dormitory. Despite being polar opposites, they got along fine as friends. One night, Samantha decides to go out for a party with a date she recently met, while Meg stays behind to study for an upcoming midterm exam. When Samantha returns from the party, the lights are all turned off. She does not wish to disturb her friend asleep, so she keeps the lights off. Early in the morning, Sam tries to wake Meg up to discuss the exams. As Meg doesn't respond, Sam hesitantly uncovers her face to wake her up. She gets horrified to discover Meg's face turned black and blue, and falls on the floor in a state of shock. She observes that Meg's studies table was all messed up, and finds a note on the wall. It simply said, "Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the lights?" Well, she's not going to pass her exams now, is she? This next story is based on a true story. It's from a woman from America who tells her story of her unexpected friend. When my sister Betsy and I were kids, our family lived for a while in a charming old farmhouse. We loved exploring its dusty corners and climbing the apple tree in the backyard. But our favourite thing was the ghost. We called her Mother because she seemed so kind and nurturing. Some mornings, Betsy and I would wake up, and on each of our nightstands we'd find a cup that had been there the night before. Mother had left them there, worried that we would get thirsty during the night. She just wanted to take care of us. Among the home's original furnishings was an antique wooden chair, which was kept against the back of the wall of the living room. Whenever we were preoccupied watching TV or playing a game, Mother would inch that chair forward across the room, towards us. Sometimes she'd manage to move it all the way to the centre of the room. We always felt sad putting it back against the wall. Mother just wanted to be near us. Years later, long after we moved out, I found an old newspaper article about the farmhouse's original occupant, a widow. She murdered her 2 children by giving them each a cup of poisoned milk before bed. She then hung herself. The article included a photo of the farmhouse's living room, with a woman's body hanging from a beam. Beneath her, knocked over, was the old wooden chair, placed exactly in the centre of the room. Perhaps you think twice when you're all alone in your room. Our 4th and final story is short, but I'm sure it will make you feel spine-tingly. A father began tucking his son into bed. Before he leaves his son, he says to him, "Daddy, check for monsters under my bed." The father looked underneath for his amusement, and to his surprise and horror, he found his son. Another son, identical to the one in bed. The father looked at the son under the bed to see horror in his eyes. I suppose that's another mouth to feed, isn't it? I hope you enjoyed our little journey in these 4 horrific stories. So good night, sleep tight, and try not to have any nightmares tonight.